Nadine, welcome to Mind Body Peak Performance.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
It's an honor to host you. We've been coordinating schedules for about 6 months, so finally we're making it happen.
Yay.
It is 2:30 p.m. here. I believe it's 3:30 over there for you. So far today, what are the non-negotiables you've done for your health, your performance, and your bioharmony?
That's a fun question. I did some red light therapy in the morning. I sun gazed like when the sun was rising. I luckily had a break at around, for a good sun session. Got a good hour, 20 minutes in. So that's pretty much a non-negotiable when the sun's out, but I have appointments today, like right now, and I wouldn't be able to be in the sun. So luckily it was at a good window. And of course eating.
Yeah, those are all important. One thing that I personally do when it's possible, but it hasn't been for a long time because of the weather, is sun gazing. And you mentioned that you are a sun gazer. I think that's going to be a new term. We haven't discussed that at all in the show. Will you break it down for us?
Sure, like sun gazing itself.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like I think the first act. Like if we think of a day with the sun, that's sort of the first activity and the last activity. You can look directly at the sun within the first hour of sunrise and the last hour of day, sunrise, sunset. And it's obviously there's physiological things, and the rays are speaking to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the center of the brain. And of course our eyes are seeing, but there are also cones in the retina that have nothing to do with vision per se, but are taking in the light messages or information, communication, and bringing that into the mitochondria. So it's just, pretty trippy, and everywhere else in the body. And it's just besides the physiological things. To me, you can talk about spirituality, quote unquote, and that can kind of get woo woo or what is that? But to me, connecting and seeing the sun, like that just is spirit to me. Like I don't know what makes the sun rise every day, but that is the cosmos, and connecting to that. It's just so real. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, the sun rising and setting is real. And it's a great time to meditation, tune in, especially if you can maybe stand on the earth too in bare feet. Sometimes, like right now, we've still got snow on the ground in some places. And then what's great too is it really is good for your eyes, like literally good. And so you will help to improve vision, daytime vision, nighttime vision. The infrared helps to relax the muscles around the eyes. So there's all of that goodness as well. And, the closer it gets to the horizon as it sinks, or in that first, 15, 20 minutes of the day, obviously that's even easier to look at. So if you do find that it starts to get strong or you're squinting your eyes, then just cover one eye. And then you can really bring the light into the eye and then switch it up, because you do want to be able to have that time, that first, half hour or so, being able to not squint, like being able to have the eyes, sort of if you work indoors all the time and always at a computer screen, and then you're go out for lunch or something, and it's that kind of, reaction from the eyes you want to mitigate, and especially for kids because they're developing their eyes.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about sunglasses in a minute then.
Sure.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
I know when I was looking into Ayurveda, it's actually, sun gazing is an old concept. And if you do it right at the right time, which is absolutely key, I like to play it safe and only do it for the first half an hour or last half an hour of light. And you can open up a weather app on your phone and see what the UV index is. And it has to be either 0. I think it's 0, maybe 1. Definitely nothing above that. You don't want to be getting UV, and that little window is really nice. It's a interesting way, drops you into kind of like a flow state. So if you want to meditate or do any of those types of activities, or just pause for a second and enjoy the morning, it's a very tranquil way to start, and it sets up a great day.
Yeah, I tell my family, or really anybody to listen, and I guess that's all of you right now. I'm always like, come on, everybody, like whether it's sunrise or sunset. And I'm like, okay, we got to make our wishes. Like to me, that sunrise sunset is your daily birthday cake where you can wish upon that, and be thankful. It's a great time to just, think of things that you're grateful for and all that good stuff.
For the very first time I did it, I was nervous I was going to go blind because I
Aw.
grew up learning that you don't look at the sun under any circumstance. So as soon as we finished sun gazing, I went home and pulled out the eye chart and made sure I still had my
Oh, that's so
vision.
cute. I was going to say a good tool is the D-Minder app. And you can, well, it's great because you want to chart your D because it really is a living thing. And to keep it sufficient is something that you want to, like, you kind of have to be aware of it so that you can keep your numbers up, because you can't just like take a bottle of vitamin D3 and then like be sufficient. It's like a thing that needs to be fed kind of daily. And so what's great is with that app, you'll know the UV of where you're at like every second of the day. And you'll see in your area, because you'll take in your geography when the UV comes in. And of course the UV, like right now I'm in Ontario, Canada, March. So it's like, right, not close to the equator. So the days are, we're inching towards our sunshine, our longer days. By June, the sun will set like 9:30, 10, which is, I love that. So the UV doesn't really enter the sun until you've got a couple of hours in the morning. So like right now, I don't think it's entering the sun until about 10:30. In Hawaii right now, it's probably coming in at about 8:45. So that time is a whole other, so you've got your sun gazing and then you've kind of got this other window. So, I mean, in an ideal, shotgun ideal here, but if you can have those first 2 hours of the day outside or, with your doors fully open wherever you are, basking in that, it is very good because you're getting the red light. There's no UV yet. We like UV, but that's like a different protocol really. Cause like the sun, there's also just sort of been this, growing up as, don't look at the sun, don't get it on your skin. And it's just this like chunk of an answer. It's just like, no. And the sun, of course, is so nuanced. Our bodies are nuanced. The sun's changing daily, seasonally, monthly, as it's time of how it's strong or not strong wherever you are. So we need to understand how to work with it. I really feel that we're in relation to creation every second, whether we like it or not. And that's what we want to understand, the relation of our bodies to the sun and the relation of our skin to the sun, because the skin is designed to be exposed to the sun's rays. And not only designed to be exposed, but like designed to drink it in, designed because it needs it.
Okay, I want to hear more about this. This is really fascinating, and this is going to be a large topic of our conversation today. But before we go on past sun gazing, I want to clarify one thing, like the how-to. When I was looking through some of the Ayurvedic text on this, they mentioned to only look at the sun for 15 seconds and work your way up very slowly from there. Why? Why is that? Why are you supposed to start with such a slow or such a short amount of time and take so long to build up to actual minutes?
I feel like you want to build up. I don't know if you have to do it 15 seconds at a time. I mean, unless you're crawling out of a cave or something, you have not seen sunlight. So take that into, consideration. But I think you can ebb it up more by like minutes. But you'll know too. And I think when it's getting strong, cover one eye, and then bring it in there, flip. And then, about that first 15 minutes, half hour, you can drink that in. Even if you can just take 1 minute, if you're, getting ready and, oh my God, there's the sun rising, be with it. Or like driving on your way to work, have that window open or just pull over for 1 minute and just open the window and take it in. And that first 2 hours is a magical window. There's no UV yet. And now again, I'm speaking generally. Maybe you've got an hour and a half because it's July in Hawaii. But also the first UV, even if you're at the equator, like that first half hour of UV is a lot less strong than noon. So what's so fascinating And I've learned I love looking at the mitochondria, but this was new information for me about 2 years ago. And it really puts a lot together, including like why red light is such effective therapy. So this is like, you can go and get the red light from the sun. And also that's a great thing about some of the biohacking options we have these days, because they're really concentrating the elements, right? Whether it's sort of like an ozone, whether you've got red light therapy, that kind of thing. So what's fascinating is most people know about the the pineal gland's production of melatonin, and we need that at night so that we can sleep. And maybe a lot of people know, maybe you've had a podcast on it, like even if you're exposed to any light, like you got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and you flick on that switch or you see that night light, you've drastically reduced your melatonin, even if the light flicks for 1 second. And all the cells in the body, they are tuned into the circadian rhythm, right? Like the cells in your big toe. And there's no blue light in nature at night. The moon has no blue light. So the blue light is signaling the daytime. But anyway, back to the red light. So there's the nighttime production of the melatonin, which is secreted from the pineal gland, but that's really only about 5% of the story. And what I didn't know and what I find just so fascinating is that there's a daytime production of melatonin in the mitochondria. Yes, that is acting like this coolant fluid for the production of the ATP, which is just like our basic energy, what we're converting from like calories into energy for the body. And no matter how healthy you are, that process has byproducts, has kind of like a cellular excrement, so to speak, of oxidants and free radicals. And the melatonin comes in to quench that oxidant activity. It is a master antioxidant, more powerful than glutathione. And we don't get the red light exposure during the day. So we're not getting that red light exposure, and then we're getting the blue light at night. So we're really messing with our circadian rhythms in a big way. And so that red light, that morning sun, brings in that production of melatonin. And there's also therapies by taking, you can obviously take melatonin at night, and that works for a lot of people. A lot of people it doesn't. And the daytime taking of it is really neat. The first few weeks, I couldn't do it well. I had to function or work, but it wears off, and you become very functional after your body gets used to it. And then it's just helps with so many internal systems. And then the neat thing that brings it back to the sun is it can help if you take melatonin before sun exposure. Like, you're generally not getting burnt. Generally, but apparently it's even really good for like very pale kind of Irish people as well, because the melatonin is connected to the melanin production as well. So it's a pretty neat little system there.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And I like to think of the intracellular melatonin. If you think of the mitochondria as like a car and it naturally produces exhaust, it's like a protective measure to reduce the amount of exhaust so that the engine functions better and for longer. And if you're taking melatonin during the daytime, if you're exposed to light, that's one way to blunt the drowsiness effects, the sleep inducing effects a little bit, because that's up the realm of Dr. John Laurence. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's coming on the podcast soon. And he mentions all of the uses for melatonin aside from sleep. In fact, the sleep might be just one of the things that's been explored the most in the research, but there's so much else there.
Yeah. And there's the really cool thing too is there's no negative feedback loop. So you're not going to dull your own production by taking melatonin like you would if you're taking like estrogen or testosterone, which will dull your own supply, your endogenous production. And apparently there's no toxic amount. There's no what is that, LDS or whatever? Yeah. Or the lethal dose thing. And so that's really cool. And yeah, I love his suppository products with Mitozen. And he has some awesome, like a daytime 200 mgs or the 400. But I could get to easily I think, yeah, I've had 400 today, and I'm like just fully functioning
Yeah.
human. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I can do anything. Because when I first took it, I was like, oh my God, I can't work. And well, now I can work, but I couldn't do that like on a podcast day or something. But it's like it just becomes functional. And I think we are functioning with a bit of a deficit of melatonin, due to the circadian rhythms and the light that we've been exposed to. And sort of like in your 40s, or, as you move away from puberty, the hormones that signaled puberty go into a high, which is, I think, there's some theories that it's kind of your lifetime clock, right? So there's a more production of the hormones that sort of triggered puberty in your midlife, and they go into high gear, which brings on aging more. Like they start going up 500%, like the LSH, the luteinizing hormone, the follicle stimulating hormone, those kind of things. And then the melatonin comes to just like, dampen that as well, that activity that's sort of signaling aging, really.
His book on the subject, The Melatonin Miracle, is really fascinating. He goes through all the different things it helps with, from disease states to performance to just general sleep. I mean, of course, sleep. But I think for sleep, the reason it doesn't work for some people is a genetic polymorphism. And if you have that, then you'll take it and you'll wake up at maybe like 2, 3 in the morning, wide awake.
Yeah, that's me. Like I cannot take it at night. So that's why I was also like, it was like to discover the daytime thing was super cool. But I was like even worried, not worried, but I was like, oh, if it's not good at night, like I'm going to feel weird during the day. Cause if I take even 1 microgram at night, like one of those little pills, I just wake up feeling hungover and stuff, and like I didn't sleep, like I skimmed the top of my sleep. And a lot of people have that, like about 30% of the population, it seems. So, you can even take it, because a lot of us have normal jobs that we have to go to. But if you weren't into it at night, you could even, I find like if I even take it by 4 or 5 while it's still light out, I won't have that wake up at 2 a.m. thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I also wonder exactly how it's working when we're taking it exogenously, because sure, 90+% of it is not produced in the pineal gland in the brain. It's produced in the gut and in the mitochondria to defend them. But at the same time, there's got to be some kind of like signaling cascade or something happening in the brain that makes it surge at night and have a more like sleep inducing effect at night specifically.
Maybe John knows.
Yeah, yeah, we'll find out. Anyway, this is not a show all on melatonin. That's coming later. But it is interesting how it can impact our ability to interface with the sun. And there's a peptide that I use every once in a while when I'm going to be in a hot climate that has really high UV and I'm going to be in the sun a lot. It's called melanotan, and that increases the melanin production in your skin, which is like a natural internal sunscreen. And it works really well to prevent skin damage and some of the conditions associated with it. What do you do to keep your skin healthy despite being in the sun? Because there is a sector in the longevity crowd that will not even look at the sun, will not go outside because it's bad, or at least they think it's bad. But then at the same time, heavy exposure to it without building your solar callus is also not necessarily good. And sunscreens, the usual go-to, have their own scary set of drawbacks. So what is your approach?
Yeah, those are great questions. I wanted to add to your melanotan thing, because that is rare. You definitely want a good, clean, not made in China or something where you don't know. And I have found, and again, I take so little, but yeah, I will. Like we were just in Hawaii, so I did like, a little before, and then I have it during. But I'd make a nose spray, and I find that gives you, just because you can obviously take too much of the melanotan. And then one of the drawbacks, where I don't, is because it just makes any freckle or anything darker, or it can for people. And I find the nose spray doesn't as much. So I like that. And you just reconstitute it the same way, and you throw it in a little, you can get a glass nose spray bottle.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then it's the same method, and it lasts so long. Because they're a lot more stable than we thought originally as well. So I can keep that like one thing for like months, like just ready on the go. But my son, for example, like he doesn't like the nose thing, but he'll do the, injections. And so, but I loved it because like he was going to Mexico. He doesn't, and he can get tan. He's no way in he's not even going to wear our sunscreen. Like he just doesn't he's just not, he's a 15-year-old guy. So he just takes the melatonin, right? And then he brought extra to take halfway through the trip. And it was perfect, like just great tan. And it really does build, like it gives you a quick layer to prevent burning. So it's very handy trick, that Melanotan. So other than that, I love that. And that's new to the repertoire, but very handy for tropical trips, especially when you're coming out of the winter, right? And you can't build up a base. So yeah, I love tanning, and definitely our skin is designed to be exposed to the sun's rays. And yeah, there's still, even in our beautiful, we'll call it biohacking community, still a lot of misconceptions about the sun, because of course we were all grown up with the same program, so to speak. And yeah, so there's a lot of myth around that. And of course, people don't want to get wrinkles or whatever, right? So, if you don't believe what I'm going to say, that's cool. Like just put a hat on and do it with the rest of your body. But I think, and you can start seeing that the sun really creates an internal lubrication that is needed. And we can't just take vitamin D3 because that's like a fat soluble vitamin. And when we're basking in the beauty of the sun, we're creating a water-based water soluble vitamin D that cleanses the blood in a way that the fat soluble isn't going to. Also, when we're in the sun, we're generating so many things that we're going to just keep discovering. Besides a healthy cholesterol sulfate, which is created, and it's very key to the sex hormones to have that cholesterol sulfate in the body. There's also our own natural antimicrobial peptides are created, including cathelicidins that create LL37, which is actually also a peptide you can get, but you can also generate it with your sun exposure. And the neat thing about the LL37 is it seems to be effective for things that create like RNA viruses. So it's very good for things like sepsis, for example. There was a small study done with 30 people, and the death rate is pretty high with sepsis. So I think it's 50%. So they gave it to everybody. They all survived. So I mean, it's a very small study, but it's a really cool thing. But you can get that, generate your own by being in the sun. So there's a lot of stuff going on, including like our vitamin D receptors, which we have thousands of. If those VDRs, vitamin D receptors, aren't brimming with vitamin D, then these things called bacterial ligands can come into the vitamin D receptors and basically just shut down the immune system, which is really neat because now we're kind of getting the scientific data on, why 100 years ago people were healing themselves on a serious level, like medicinally at hospitals in Europe through heliotherapy. And now we're like, oh yeah, that's helpful for things like Epstein-Barr and all of that. So that's cool. And you're reminding me of sunglasses because Dr. Auguste Rollier, who was, there was this, it's fun to Google the pictures. If you just Google like his name, which is Rollier, Auguste, and Lysin, Switzerland, Lysine. And you just see this hospital with like verandas out in the sun, and like they're black and white photos, but you can see the tans. You can see the docs are all really tanned as well. And he really studied the sun, and they were healing like tuberculosis and I don't know, all the diseases of the time that are escaping my brain. And he found in his studies that if you wore sunglasses, the effects of the healing just didn't take place. And I'll write about this more in my book, but it's also because now we know too that there are cones in the retina. Obviously our eyes are a lot about seeing, but there are other cones that are there to just receive light and communicate that to our mitochondria. So the sunglasses must be cutting that off. So of course we need our sunglasses sometimes, for driving or different things, or just to hold our hair back, which is fine. But when you're basking in the sun, you want to be free of that. And you can be, even if you're if you're wearing a hat, it's a different thing because you're still getting the light. So it's not about your eyes having to be in the sun. It's about allowing them to receive the light from the environment. So also then when you're tanning, you want to start slowly but surely and start in the spring. So in our area, we don't have UV in the rays from like November till mid-February. But I actually didn't even realize they came back mid-February until I started really charting things. I thought it was sort of March. So it's very weak then, but I'll start, and luckily I have like places in my home where I can just open up the sliding and be like half in, half out while there's like minus 10 degrees outside. And then I can get that going again. And then that gets the baseline going. And then, I've talked, like, I'll get little emails from people around the world and they'll be like, oh yeah, my family, we're in Australia. We started in the spring. And then in the summer, we finally didn't need sunblock because you've built up that melanin. Now, of course, that's a very general statement. You've got to work with your own body, but you want to, bring in that melanin. We're like a solar battery and we need to get that charge, that solar charge. And as you said, to build up the solar callus, so to speak. Which doesn't bring in melasma and wrinkles. It doesn't. That is the main cause of those issues is like our diet and then what we're bringing, because what we're eating and what we're putting on our bodies is kind of what we're offering on that altar of sunshine. Because we are in relationship to the sun. The sun doesn't just happen to us. It's right. It takes two to tango. And so, are you bringing your Coca-Cola fueled, Mazola fueled body to bask in the sun, spraying on oxybenzene?
You mentioned a couple things there that are also important to highlight. First of all, you said you open your door and windows filter out the UVA or UVB, but not the UVA. And UVB is beneficial. It also is what increases the melanin and has all kinds of benefits. It also like helps offset some of the damage that occurs from overexposure to UVA. That's why there's the photo online of the truck driver who has the half of their face exposed to the sun through the window. It's like super old, and then the other half is very young. So that's one issue is if you're exposed to sun, you really want to make sure you don't have any glass between you and the sun. And that includes windows, that includes sunglasses if possible, because that also tricks your brain into thinking the light isn't as intense, so you don't need as much melanin to protect you. And then the other one that you mentioned is the Missoula, the vegetable oils. Those predispose you to burning more and faster also.
Yes. And the dreaded melasma or hyperpigmentation where you get the patches of, just darker skin, which a lot of women get. I don't know why. It seems to be more than men. I think it also things like the birth control pill can do that, but it's also those rancid omega-6s in the body that we're then exposing to the sunlight. And I love you talking about the UVA, UVB thing. And that is a great metaphor. I didn't know about that photo, but I often talk about a truck driver, this mythical one in my head, where, they're always driving westward at at the end of the day. And so that arm would be way more freckled than the other arm because of the light getting filtered. And so you're right. You just get the UVA separated from the UVB. And that is also exactly explains sunscreen. So one reason why sunscreen is gnarly for the body is not just because of the toxins and that it might affect fertility, liver function, endocrine disruption, or that oxybenzene is a non-carcinogenic ingredient until it's exposed to sunlight and being a major ingredient in sunscreens. Besides all of that, the main issue with sunscreen is that it separates the UVB from its ultraviolet partner UVA from UVB, and the UVB is the deliverer of the D. And of course, we like things more holistic, so you want the full ray. You don't want to have, half a ray. And so that is, one of the main issues. So it also is, anesthetizing our skin's ability to tell us like, hey, it's time to get out of the sun. And I do talk about it more in my book where, there's going to be like citations and stuff. But the studies really show that there was a Cochrane review of about 14 studies. And really simply put, the use of sunscreens really increases freckles, moles, and your a bit like susceptibility to carcinomas of the skin. So it's not a good thing. And then the melanoma thing is like obviously devastating and a very serious issue. But the studies show that the closer you live to the equator, the more time you spend outside, recreationally or for work, the less chance you have of developing melanoma. And that this was back in the 90s. So before we were all in front of a screen all day. So I don't even know where we're at now. But it was showing that fluorescent lighting was more of a cause than the sun.
Which flies in the face of all traditional advice. If indoor fluorescent lighting is more causative to melanoma than actual sunlight.
Yeah. So that's pretty major. A book that I love, in case anybody wants to go in deeper, was written by Dr. Bernard Ackerman. The title's something like Myth on Myth, Sunlight and Melanoma. And he was the founding father of dermatopathology, which is like more serious than dermatology. It's the study of the diseases on the skin. And I mean, he was fully into the sunshine. He was, tanned. And it's an amazing, amazing book. It is so deep, so bringing it all in. And he's really kind of poetic and saucy writer. So it's just really appreciated him. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned earlier was the effect it has on different biomarkers. I met a doc who told me that if he sees someone that has out of balance lipoproteins, they have high cholesterol, the very first thing he'll check is how much sun exposure they're getting, because that's like a catalyst to fuel. If you're actually exposed to real sunlight, your body uses that and sulfates it into other sex hormones and things that are really important for your body to function optimally. You wouldn't think that high cholesterol could be related to insufficient sun exposure, but perhaps there's something there.
Yeah, this is beautifully said. And, if sun exposure is a bit hard for people, because again, you kind of really have to design a life around it. And I feel like, every year I feel like I learn more and I'm able to like embody it more, even though I feel like I've been going hard for about 20 years with the sun. What was I going to say though? Oh yeah. So if you can't, they're literally deficient in vitamin D, I would assume. And so get that up, get the K2, D3 up. And again, it's something you're going to have to keep on for your life. We really don't want to slip below sufficiency with D, because then all of a sudden a whole bunch of body stuff stops kind of working like cholesterol.
Yeah. I mean, one of the important things there is that you get some UVB and probably a little bit of UVA also. Are there any ways for people who live up in the extreme latitudes? What can they do if they don't have really meaningful amounts of sun exposure at certain times of the year?
Yeah, well, I think I'm in there a bit,
Yeah.
And I think you got to go hard in the seasons that you can. And then, I mean, thank God we have the supplements, because I think you really have to keep it up. Because the moment you're not getting sort of little bits of sun every week, it just really, because I track it with that D miner, and it just starts by December. I'm like fast tracking out of my D. Also, even though there is no UV, get any light you can, because that red light is beautiful. The times without the UV are also beneficial. And I believe, there was a study. I can't totally quote it, but it definitely showed they were just looking at vitamin D and like current virus things going around, and obviously sun exposure, vitamin D, you're good. But they found that people that were above the vitamin D line, like the people that lost the UV in the winter, if they were outdoors and they still went outside and got that morning light, their immune systems were way better off.
That's one of those things that I've been talking about. I've been harping on for years now. One of my most important practices is to get outside every morning, shortly after waking up, before the sunrise, ideally to see the sunrise also, because I mean, we were talking about melatonin earlier, and it takes about 1,000 lux, a measure of light intensity, to suppress melatonin. And the indoor lights are like 200 to 500 lux. But even on a cloudy day, you're getting 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 lux. So you're getting a lot outside. Dr. Andrew Huberman is making this popular, the concept of getting outside. And also another stat, if the average American spends 90 to 95% of their lives indoors, I don't know if that's true. I haven't fact checked it.
I think it's true.
Yeah, but the point is, either way, getting out for a half an hour morning walk where you can read, you can listen to something, you can be alone with your thoughts, you can maybe even sun gaze. But right there, you're doing so much good, and it's the very beginning of the day.
Yeah, and there's so much that's like biologically happening. You're like jump starting amino acids, and there's hormone stuff that I'm sure we'll be figuring out for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Of the gifts that the sun is giving us.
Assuming you're doing it before you eat breakfast, you're also burning some free fatty acids in the bloodstream.
Yeah.
So far we have getting outside and getting some natural light exposure. Oh, and that inoculates you a little bit against late night light exposure too. So if you get a lot of light exposure first thing in the morning, you're more resistant to the melatonin drop off that happens late at night if you're exposed to light. So there's another good one there. But we have wearing a hat, definitely removing as many vegetable oils, industrial seed oils from the diet as possible. We have get that morning light. We have possibly using, under the care of your primary care physician or other healthcare professional, peptides. Are there any other foods? Do you use astaxanthin or anything else like that to build up your internal layer, your internal sunscreen?
Yeah, because for sure there are studies, and I write about them in Renegade Beauty, where for sure what we're putting in, I can't act like an internal sunscreen. So I love that red algae. I do take it on and off. I took it in Hawaii. But what I'm taking now every day, and so it works, is the spermidine with the chlorella version from Primadine. And that I feel is giving me that, the color, because it's so good to have the green in the sun as well.
Yeah, we had Leslie Kenny on the show back, but that was before they released the chlorella version.
Oh yeah. She's a dear friend.
Yeah, I love both of those. I love spirulina and chlorella, and being able to extract spermidine out of that instead of wheat germs seems like it's leagues better.
Yeah, I was taking two for a bit, but I really just love the chlorella one so much. It's great. And the benefits are it's just phenomenal. I feel like I've been taking supplements and stuff for about 30 years and just exploring. Like I feel like everything. I'm sure I haven't, but it feels like it, and I've done all the herbs for hair and all that. Cause I'm in the beauty. So we gotta experiment, but never ever have I that when I 1 week on the spermidine, and I was like, I've never had a supplement just so successful, like so delivering. And I feel like we're going to find out that it takes, so right now spermidine shows that it takes care of 6 of the 9 hallmarks of aging. And I feel like we're going to get a 9 out of 9 when the research comes in.
Yeah, it's more effective in people who are a bit older than I am, but I've been microdosing it anyway because of the research is pretty compelling behind it. And I figure, why not? It's not going to hurt. So that is one of the things that I take, and I take also a ton of different things. I'm curious, what are your top, like, say, 5 beauty practices?
Oh, beauty. I thought you were going to ask the 5 things I take. Well, I guess let's start with what I take, because that's where my mind is. I don't, I have a lot, but I really find I'm just sort of dialed in on a few things. Spermidine, for sure. The Endoluten,
Is that a bioregulator?
Yeah, it's a bioregulator, and it's like the equivalent of the Epidemic. It's the pineal gland one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and those were the first 2 bioregulators, the Thymosin alpha, which is like the Libations, and the pineal gland one. That is a miracle. It just seemed to like so many, and I'll any age on it, any gender, like male or female, holy. They're just like, what is this?
Wow.
So it's amazing.
I was talking to Phil Mikens. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
Literally yesterday about bioregulators.
That's so great. Another good person is Natalie Nidham.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, like deep dive. You can go on a deep dive with her. She's interviewed Bill Lawrence a few times, which so is Phil. And he's like, yeah, he's been working with Cavison, I think, for about 7 years. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, so I take that and like, Thymosin alpha, the peptide, and butyrate.
Butyrate. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Those would be like every day, generally speaking. And
what do you notice from butyrate?
Oh, just like gut health.
Yeah.
It's like, do
you feel it?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, postbiotics. Like how did I not know about that like 10 years ago? So I feel like it completes the biotics.
Yeah. I've never gotten around to trying butyrate.
Oh, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
It's like
it's another thing.
Yeah, anybody I tell is like, oh my God, thank you for the butyrate. So, and there's even Butyrate, which actually you could even just try that because it's a little more concentrated, a little more advanced, so to speak.
A lot of peptides and bioregulators in your stack.
Yeah, I feel like when I started going into those in like 2019, thankfully, I think in good timing. And then I'm like, they just seem to blow vitamins out of the water, so to speak. You know?
Yeah, you want to have your nutritional basis covered.
Yeah, and that, yeah.
With
I wouldn't say like I love eating. I eat liver every day, pretty much. So I think that's like the super vitamin of them all.
Interesting. So you actually enjoy the taste.
Yeah, well, I make a pate. That's the only way I can. I finally I can share my pate recipe with you. And then we make out of yams. We make some flatbreads, and then those are like, like kind of like put the pate on there, and I'm very happy with some water buffalo butter.
All right, now let's talk about your beauty practices, because I'm guessing this all has to do with beauty. It's pretty interwoven. But are there any things that stand out and maybe unusual things in your practice?
Well, to me, the primary thing for beauty, I feel like, is engaging with the elements. Like that's the a priori. I feel like that's a foundation, right? So sunshine, like bathing in clean water, jumping in a lake or an ocean, get a filter on, even if it's a basic $30 filter, it's better, right? So that, and then like loving the gifts of the earth, whether that's, a beautiful oil to put on my body or lying on the ground. And then obviously fresh air through all of that. So I think that is like has to be for beauty, right? And then we get more into the, finer daily details. And oil, I've been like for, 30 years. That's what I do to cleanse and care for my body. So we're washing our face. We just use oil. And of course, we made these best skin evers, but you can just use something like olive oil, like real organic olive oil or jojoba. And if you just had a liter of those for to take you through the years, you would be far better off than using any kind of beauty counter or drugstore stuff on your skin. And the reason too is like, looking at the skin and the microbiome, and soap is handy, but we don't need to be soaping our faces or our bodies. Like, I'm older than you, I think, but the old Irish Spring ads where they're lathering up, right, the whole body, we never need to do that. Just sort of bits and bits. Soap, natural soap. We make bar soaps, but just go to a farmer's market, pick up a bar soap, whatever. So you got to have that handy. You want to scrub your nails, but for the rest of the body, it's oil. So for men and women, at the end of the day, you just you can use your hands, splash the face with water, massage in some oil, and then splash it again. That's really basic. Or you can do that same thing, but with a cloth. So just like a basic classic terry face cloth. And that's all you really need for exfoliation on a daily basis. So you wet a patch of that cloth, squirt on the oil, and then you use that to just cleanse and refresh your face. For women, it can remove makeup if they're, using that. And that's really going to shift things for the skin. People kind of go, oh no, I've had acne for 10 years. I can't use oil on my face. But yes, you can, and it will clear it up. And, usually people start seeing changes within the first 24 hours. Some people need to detox a bit, but it's rare, like maybe 5%. They'll go through a change, because there's been a lot of stuff on our faces. And now that we know more about the microbiome, because in the 80s, we thought the stomach was a sterile environment, for example. So with the microbiome, now we can know that like things like soap and surfactants, even if it's your natural quote unquote, face foaming cleanser or whatever, leaves microscopic surfactants in the stratum corneum, which is the top layer of the skin. And those microscopic surfactant splinters don't leave from rinsing the face. They build up daily over time. And then, it can be a contributing factor to things like eczema or melasma, or just like, what is that dry patch on my face that's never going away? Or to cystic acne, all those things. So we want to really stop using the soap.
Wait, so then if you don't do the soap, and say you have those surfactants, what do you do? Do you just...
Oh yeah, well, the oil and not using the soap will eventually clear it away. And so for some, there might be a little bit more of a detox and stuff, but most people can glide through that. And I mean, it's so easy. I mean, it's not like a complex beauty thing at all. And men are fully capable of doing it because it takes like 2 seconds, you know, and it's not some big weird beauty thing that takes 12 steps. So that's really basic. And then that beautiful oil, right? Then you're like, you know, you're lubed for the sun. You know, we're working with some beautiful oils like frankincense and essential oils. So that even like helps. I mean, I don't even need bug repellent because, you know, I've always got like essential oils wafting off me. So walking in the forest, no problem. And yeah, you'll just find like the whole skin on the body will just be like more balanced because the things that we do to the skin really create these kind of catch-22s where we're like pouring on a chemical to like dry out acne. And then that's, you know, leaving the pores and the skin vulnerable. As gross as it sounds, we got to actually let the bacteria be our beautician, and we can't be stripping the microbiomes like off our body with chemicals because, you know, the bacteria need a little sebum. They need some dead skin cells to eat, as gross as it sounds. Now, of course, it doesn't mean you're going to walk around flaky skin at all, but we've got to eke a really alive tapestry teeming with microbes on our body. And we, you know, can't be like basically pouring pesticides on them in the name of beauty through the chemical creams and, you know, things like that.
Yeah, because we add insult to injury by sterilizing and then using endocrine disrupting chemicals and all kinds of other stuff. And it's surprising that the skin is able to stay as clean and clear as it is despite all that.
But I think, I mean, there are major skin issues kind of going on culturally too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. The skin often reflects other internal issues such as liver problems or gut microbiome imbalances.
Absolutely, yeah.
And other backups throughout the body. So a lot of times you might be trying to apply things to the skin only to realize that the issue, or maybe not to realize, but because the issue stems elsewhere.
You're not going to get rid of it. Yeah. And then maybe what you're putting on is like, you know, worsening the situation. Because then maybe you got frustrated and went to a dermatologist and then they prescribed something with antibiotics, which obviously isn't worse for the microbiome. Really, any skin therapy has to take the skin's microbiome into account to actually be beneficial.
Mm-hmm. So if you got like a flare up, say on your face, and you had some stuff, what would your course of action be? Would you just use the exfoliation with a gentle washcloth and then add some oil, or would you do something else?
Yeah, I would do that as a base, and then I would add to it. Again, like I've made things because I've wanted to make solutions for every single thing, but there's always a way, and I have recipes in my book to just make your own. But yeah, you would want to, you know, we've got some balms for that, so I would want to add like something that's anti-inflammatory to that. We have something called bee dab, and it's like blue oil, like it's got yarrow and frankincense and peppermint. It's very cooling, so it helps with like red, angry skin. Or we've got stuff for scarring. So yeah, once you've washed your face, then maybe you're fine tuning to that acne might need a little further thing, or a scar or rosacea. And there's so many solutions with that within the botanical world with the, you know, when you're combining like real essential oils with ozonated, like we have the bee dab as an ozonated form. And that's using the Tesla technology because Nikola Tesla invented running ozone through olive oil.
Oh, he's the one who invented it.
He's the one. He right? So many things he did. Anyways, doctors and naturopaths at the time would be using it. So we've taken that concept and I've made like, the doodab ozonated ones, which are just like little kind of medicine for those things that are out of balance or just need more love. In the skincare. And then we've also made like the world's first ozonated lip gloss with that. So we took our red root with the ozonated olive jojoba, and then we've got a beautiful, totally natural red gloss.
All right, so we have skincare, the basics of skincare down. What else? What are the other non-negotiables in your beauty or health practices?
Then I'd say like we've got the pits. So for deodorant, which is an area that I think we definitely want something pure, more pure, because the pits are, especially for women, if they're shaving, it's like just drinking in whatever you're putting in. And maybe aluminum in deodorants is a small amount, but we're talking about a daily dose for people maybe over 50, 60, 70 years of deodorant use. and then that's building up in an area. Also, I mean, there's going to be lymphatics obviously there for both men and women, but that area can get a little more congested for women with, breast health and that kind of stuff. So we definitely don't want to be feeding that, and nor do we want to be smelling. So, sunning your armpits, dusting them with just baking soda. You could just have a little sunning. Yeah, sunning. Get them in the sun. That's antibacterial. Now, it's not going to be the whole trick, that's for sure. But anytime you are in the sun, baking soda will work. But also just sandalwood, like one drop of that beautiful oil. You'll be amazed how it takes care of the pits for days. And from that, I made something we call poetic pits. And so it's all sandalwood with like other notes, like so sandalwood with frankincense, but basically sandalwood, which nobody does because it's way expensive, but it makes like the most exquisite deodorant that we've been making for over 22 years. And like people are just like whether they do hot yoga or they work out, people follow them after they're all sweaty and are like, how do you smell so good? It's kind of like a Pied Piper of pits. And then it's not masking you. It takes, because we're excreting a lot of pheromones from the pits as well. So it's like a special area. And then when you add like the sandalwood or like a combination, you're really enhancing your own aroma. And then what you start emitting is like this beautiful combination of your own aroma, but the not smelly part, because that part's been taken care of. And it's combined with the oils, and it gives everybody a unique, pleasant, because you get your own spin on it, so to speak. But it's very, very successful deodorant. So that's really great because we don't want to be using normal deodorant. And then I think the other area is the mouth. Right, which I think is inextricably bound to beauty, because healthy mouths are obviously going to, create healthy bodies, and many mouth issues can lead to face issues. So there's all of that, but that's like non-negotiable for me too. I need like our purity of ingredients. And again, if you could use baking soda, how we talked about, you can make rinses for your mouth with like baking soda or sea salt. Again, a lot of ingredients that are in your pantry are ready, readily, really way better than again, something that's from the drugstore. And, of course we make pastes that are a little more, exciting. Like we've got one that we made last year with nanohydroxyapatite, which is great for preventing, like for helping bone loss, smooth out fissures in the teeth, bring back whiteness. And, before had only been available as a toothpaste with other ingredients that we don't want. So I was very excited to put that together in our triple mint, and I'm loving that paste. And then also we've made dental serums, which is just really helpful for helping to rejuvenate the gums. That's actually the first dental product I made back when I was 22, was the healthy gum drops, because I was like solving a cavity that I had. Oh, actually it was probably 24. But, yeah, so that's really key, where we're using the essential oils, which now through studying the microbiome, so the ingredients that we use in our dental care, like clove, cinnamon, mastic, frankincense, peppermint, rose, tea tree, they've all been used for oral care for thousands of years. And which I can think of lots of reasons why, but the fun part is when science gets in there and confirms things. It's kind of fun. And so now we know why they're so effective for oral care, because they all, to varying degrees, they're able to inhibit the quorum sensing of pathogens, and they're able to bust through biofilms. So the things like clove are able to say to that pathogen, like, no, you're not going to form a little colony and group up and express your genes. We're going to bust through that. And so which is to me such the solution that we need right now on many levels, because we need things to be able to clean up pathogens, yet work in harmony with the beneficial bacteria, right? That's kind of the name of the game right now. And so to me, they're just so amazing for oral care, where you've got like vulnerary healing. It helps to speed up the healing of the gums. You've got antibacterial, antifungal, but not in a way that will damage the good bacteria.
Mm-hmm. One of the core ingredients in my travel kit, I had like a whole travel kit of things that I bring everywhere with me, was oil of oregano, for that reason. It's like so many different uses, and anti-pathogen was a big one, especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so you can add that to like baking soda, and then you've basically got a really amazing toothpaste. Or add a drop of that to some olive oil and do some oil pulling.
Yeah, it's very strong though.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's diluted, right? If not, you always want to dilute it.
I travel with it undiluted because I can get a lot more in a little bottle, but then I have to dilute it wherever I go.
Well, if you're traveling that way, I would just you do it like you can work with it at like 5%.
Yeah.
But if you still want it strong but diluted, you can make a little bottle that's like, 60-40.
Yeah. That's what I do, but even that way, like if I don't dilute it, it still is like
still strong.
Still very strong.
Yeah. They're fun. There are essential oils that can be used that potently, but you don't have to dilute.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But they're like peppermint, for example, is very useful. And then it's also like a little ice. So one drop. Nice.
Yeah.
I have to send you a little care kit.
Definitely. I use peppermint a lot. It's also a really good bronchodilator. So I'll use that pre-workout, especially before like sprinting or something.
You know what would be good is pouring that in a salt pipe, and then you probably do that.
Oh, a salt pipe.
Yeah. I'll send you one.
Oh, nice.
And you put the peppermint there, and then you do some breathing exercise. Oh, that's pretty much one.
This is
That'll
fume.
do it.
Yeah, you just use a cotton wick in it, and you just put some peppermint on there, and
you got it. Yeah,
that's great.
That's so good.
So give me a list of some of the your top uses for baking soda and hydrogen peroxide, because I feel like those are two staples that everyone has in the house, and there are a lot of different uses for each of them.
Totally. And you know what? They're major cleaners for us as well. So to clean the toilet, I'll just pour in some hydrogen peroxide, let that whatever for however long till I remember, and then throw in some baking soda, and then I'll scrub it. Then it's done. Clean the bathtub, sprinkle it with baking soda and some of our shampoo. Done. So I love it for household. Gotta have it in every house. And baking soda is just lovely also in a bath with magnesium salts. Throw in some drops of frankincense or, whatever your favorite oil is. And then on a beauty level, brushing the teeth. I mean, and it's what could be, more economical than that. For transitioning shampoos, because we talked about like all the things that, like face wash can leave on the face. Well, obviously shampoos filled with many crazy ingredients like butanes in dry shampoo. There's polymers, there's silicone, there's crazy things. So there can be a lot of buildup on the scalp. So if you're switching, you can like switch to a cleaner shampoo, add a bit of baking soda to those first few shampoos, and that will help to cleanse the scalp, because we do need a clean, clear scalp. You can always get a little, one of those magnifying things, like things you can do in your mouth. You can get on like eBay or something, and you can attach it to your computer and then take a look in your mouth or your hair and magnify it. And it's kind of crazy what's going on with scalps, especially, with with our current cocktail that we're putting on. So when we, have scalps that aren't breathing, that aren't clear, that have gunk on them, and that can also be from inside the body, like maybe we're not processing our DHT, our dihydroxytestosterone properly, leading to a waxy buildup. Can happen for men or women. There's like that can add to it as well. Not just from the shampoo. And what happens is then the pores get smaller and smaller, and they kind of start to kind of choke out the hair. And that's the beginning of, hair shedding, alopecia, MPB, like those kind of things. You want to really keep that scalp happy.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I didn't realize that that's a good way to transition shampoos.
Yeah, it helps to clear that out. And sometimes you can even just put a little, if you're washing your face with oil and the cloth, and you just want a little bit more exfoliation, just add a pinch of baking soda to that, and then wash your face there. It gives a tiny bit of a smooth scrub.
And in the mouth, it's not going to wear down enamel, is it?
No, I don't know why. There is a bit of even from some dentists thinking it's too abrasive, but there's a thing called the RDA rating for toothpaste, which I talk about a dental abrasivity. And baking soda is like at a 7. Most toothpaste are over 100. And like sensitive toothpaste are like at a 70. So I don't know what's going on there.
And I'm guessing the lower, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also the Moore's rate, like MOR, believe. And it's also super low on that, which is a kind of another dental abrasivity reading. But it wins on all accounts.
Well, there's your website and it has lots of good resources, Living Libations. Are there any other that you recommend people check out to learn more about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, we have like articles on our site as well. So hopefully that will, get you, if I've talked about something today, that like we have an article on the sun and that kind of thing. And then I just encourage, like, if you have questions or questions about health or acne or putting baking soda in your shampoo, just email us. We're really happy to help. We have a great team that I'm like always talking. Like if somebody has they're like, "Oh, Nadine, we got this weird blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'll be blah, blah, blah." So we love, cause it's a lot to kind of unlearn and then relearn. So we're here to help.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. I was looking through your book yesterday, Renegade Beauty, and there are a lot of different remedies and cool facts and figures that you can find in your book. If that is something you like to do it yourself, that's another great option.
Yeah, we got that too.
Yeah. And so if people are interested in connecting with you and picking up some Living Libations products, how do they do that?
Yeah, come to our livinglibations.com website, email us, and then we've got the socials. So I'm on Instagram as Nadine Artemis. We've got Living Libations, so you can say hi over there. And the book's available, wherever books are sold, and including they're both also on Audible.
That's a big one. The Renegade Beauty is very comprehensive. I was impressed and blown away that it is like so thorough.
Thank you. I just felt like I wanted to just, deliver the contents, distill the contents of my brain from the past 20 years.
I'm sure you had some kind of great system to be able to distill all that and encapsulate everything, because there is basically a section for anything and everything health related.
It's the whole body. We can't leave something out. One of my favorite chapters though is the sun chapter. And from there, we talked about that earlier, but I'm about a year or so, I'll have a book called Everybody Loves the Sunshine coming out. We'll do a deep, deep dive on the sun.
Yes, that is awesome. I'm looking forward to that. And because of people like you, hopefully the sun will no longer be one of the many public enemies.
Yeah, public enemy. And let's not cover it up.
Yeah.
Let's get some people away from that sunshine.
Yeah, I was that way for most of my life. I followed the USDA, the food pyramid to a T. I wore sunscreen religiously as a kid, and somehow I would still get really burnt. And it didn't make any sense to me, even though I was following the instructions. I was reapplying it every 60 or 80 minutes or whatever. And I'm glad to find that there are better ways out there. And as we've discussed some of them on the podcast today, and hopefully there will be more in your new book.
Yeah. I just remember growing up thinking, and everybody was like, don't sun, and I was just like, I don't know. It feels so good.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
So I just kept pursuing that.
Yeah. Let's do one last question, and we'll do a quick rapid fire round and call it a day.
Okay.
Imagine that there's a burning of the books and all knowledge on earth is gone. You get to save the works of 3 teachers. Who would you choose and why?
Rumi. I just like his poetry, speaks volumes. And then Krishnamurti. I love he's like a modern philosopher thinker. He's got I saved in my 20s for a few years to buy this £400, his CD-ROM, the whole collected works. Now it's all available online. So I definitely save him. And then I'm thinking Hafiz now. I don't know why he comes to mind. He's got some great poems on the sun.
Some of the old mystics.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Rapid fire round.
Okay.
What are the biggest myths around skincare?
Well, that you got to stay out of the sun.
That we haven't discussed already.
Yeah. That you need soap. I might have to just go over some of the classics. That you need chemicals to take care of it.
How about beauty in general?
That it's external. That it isn't totally connected to the health of your body. Yeah. Well, it's in a strange place now, I think. Well, like many things, but it's so external. And also it seems like all the solutions are like at that Band-Aid level. Mm-hmm. And we got to get to the root of things.
All right. What is something aside from sun and light that you are researching these days or you find fascinating?
Peptides. Any kind of biohacking equipment, just I'm right there researching and checking it out.
What else is in your arsenal, if anything?
Like in general or from those categories?
In the biohacking arsenal.
Oh my God. Well, we got pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, hydrogen, ozone, light. Light comes up again. It's because it's kind of all variations on that, right? Is it red light therapy? Is it laser? Is it like, yeah. Yeah, I think those are sort of the main categories. Even with PEMF, there's like many applications, magnet therapy, sound therapy.
What's interesting is those are also all biomimicking technologies.
Yeah, well, that's what I love because I'm totally into the elements. And then through these tools, we get to concentrate the elements or use them in, or like concentrated ozone, concentrated hydrogen, or not concentrated, but, now we've got it in the water. So it's more than we were getting without it in the water, or yeah, with the PEMF, red light, and then combining those things with like movement.
Yeah, I wrote an article on designing the bioharmonized house, and
we should
took
talk.
the lens of each of the different elements and going through like, this is how you mitigate this and how you optimize this.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool. I'm like literally in 2020, I'm making a little reno for here that will like literally is sort of a biohacking zone. And because I kept thinking, because I like to think sort of like, I don't have 5-year goals, but I like to think maybe like 50 years into the future and then reverse engineer it. And I'm like, okay, so how are we moving around here when we're like 90 or 100? How are we living in our home? And I got to read your article.
Okay. If you had to choose one general product for men and for women to buy from Libations, what would they be?
The best skin ever, like sea buckthorn best skin ever, frankincense best skin ever, one of those. The healthy gumdrops, the triple mint toothpaste, and the classic poetic pits.
Okay. That was multiple, but I'll give you a pass.
Sorry, I didn't know you said, I thought you said products.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Sorry.
Fair. All right. What is one thing that your tribe does not know about you?
Some people don't know that I was in a band. I used to play tambourine in a band.
Tambourine?
Yeah.
I would not have guessed.
And hula hoop at the same time.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It's very fun.
Nadine, how would you like to close our conversation today?
However you would like to. I would like to.
Sure. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground on skin, overall health, light. And I guess my takeaway would be to fear the sun less, to build up your exposure, to evaluate the products that you're using and look for cleaner alternatives. And it doesn't need to be overwhelming. You can start simply, just find one product, use that, do it, eventually add on over time, remove more things over time. But all this doesn't have to be that complicated. And it's more just do what you enjoy and you'll get to a good spot.
Yeah, totally do what you love. Like, keep choosing, like, because it's fun. Not because the lady said don't use soap, but like somehow find that curiosity to like take you through it. So it's totally fun and engaging, not just another thing on your list.
Yeah. And one thing I always mention is to not just take our word for any of the stuff we're discussing, to go out and do your own research. And that doesn't just mean a quick Google search and clicking on the first article. That means digging deep, looking into some of the journals if you have that ability, or talking to people on both sides, reading books on both sides of whatever the topic is, and come to a thorough, informed opinion. And that can change over time. That's fine. But I think the world would be a better place if people would use these types of conversations to guide their own research and go from there.
Yeah, we all want to sharpen our gut instincts, our intuition, and our own discernment. Because I think we're also in a time where, yes, there is going to be information on both sides of the issue, the argument, like till the cows come home. And so, and who can you trust? Whatever. Trust yourself, trust your guts, and build up those muscles of discernment.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you. It's been so fun talking with you.
I'm Nick Urban, here with Nadine Artemis, signing out from mindbodypeak.com. Have a great week and be an outlier. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and hit the thumbs up. I love knowing who's in the 1% committed to reaching their full potential. Comment 1% below so that I know who you are. For all the resources and links, meet me on my website at mindbodypeak.com. I appreciate you and look forward to connecting with you. As a reminder, the information depicted in this video is for information purposes only. Please consult your primary healthcare professional before making any lifestyle changes.